Hi, I'm Katie, and today we're going to go for just a short 15-20 minute mat-based Pilates workout. I'm going to try and target your abs and your butt, and we'll get some side bends and some movement through the thoracic spine as well. Although I've got some props here, you don't need any props today. We're going to do it all under our own steam. So without further ado, I'm just going to put my feet flat, and I'm going to hold on behind my thigh bones. So I want to really be lifting up as tall as I can and get onto the top of those sit bones, so that bony part of your bottom. And from here, we're just going to start with a beautiful big breath in. And as we breathe out, we're going to roll off those sit bones, and we're going to let ourselves lengthen down. Now you can hold onto your thighs here if you want to, and let the tailbone just come onto the mat. And then we're going to keep breathing as we replace, coming all the way back up to where we came from. Big breath in, breathe out. And you can take this slowly as we begin, or you can start to make this a little more dynamic if that's your style this morning. If you're feeling the challenge, you can take your hands off. So we're going to scoop, tuck, roll, scoop, tuck, and lift. And you can actually lift your arms up as you roll down, for even more of a little bit of a challenge. So we're going to do a couple more like this. If your hip flexors like mine are starting to kick in, take your feet wide and knock your knees together. And this will just help bypass those hip flexors and allow you to get into the abs. So we're not going all the way down just yet. We're going to take two more. And we want to really find that roll and scoop, trying to get the tailbone onto the mat. And back up again. And last one, this time we are going to let ourselves go all the way back and down. Really nice. From here, we're just going to take our hands and place them at the side of the torso. And bring your feet a little closer to your bottom. We're going to start with a little glute bridge here. So we're going to scoop and roll again through the tailbone, lifting up to this glute bridge position. So in a Pilates bridge, it's a slightly different place from a yoga bridge. There's absolutely nothing wrong with coming up into this extended position onto the back of the neck, if that's what feels comfortable for you. But what I want you to be able to find is if you slide it back down again and try and almost feel like the base of the shoulder blades are in connection with the floor, and then slide the ribs towards the hips so you feel almost a little hollow out through the belly. Then you can resist your heels a little heavier into the floor. Press with the hands if you need to lift those hips up high. Breathing it in and then rolling down through the back of the rib cage, so down through the upper back first. So the very last thing to come to the floor is the tailbone, and you don't have to stay in the curve. You can kick it back out and find a pelvic tilt. And we're coming all the way back up to the top, and we're trying to still find that little hollow out, that mid place. So the base of the shoulder blades are kind of connected to the floor, the heels are down, and we're trying not to splay the knees out. So we're trying to keep those knees nice and parallel. From here, we're going to make our hands into two fists, and we're going to do a little hammer curl with the arms. So the arms by themselves, elbows are facing the sky, fists come behind the ears and lift. And then we're going to add a dip and lift with our hips here. So we're going to dip the hips down a little, press and lift. Dip the hips down a little, press and lift. I don't want you to feel this in your back. So if you are finding that it's activating your back, maybe come down a little, maybe try for a little bit more of a scoop in this position, or maybe just give yourself a rest and come back to it once you've had a chance to reset. We're going to go for 4 more here. 4, 3, last 2, last one. We're going to hold this one at the top. This time, if you can, I want you to take your hands behind your head and let the hands rest on the floor. And we're going to take just a little squeeze in with our knees. So we're going to squeeze the knees in, release. 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 4 more. 4 and 3. Last 2. Last one. We're going to lift and lower those heels. 8 and 7 and 6. Keep using your butt to lift your hip bones up to the sky, almost like you're trying to iron out your hip flexors. Last 3, last 2, last 1. Breathe in, scoop, tuck, roll, and let the spine trickle back to the floor. Give yourself a second. Take a little windscreen wiper with your knees from side to side if that feels nice. And from here, we're simply going to take our hands, interlace them behind our head, and let the head rest heavy in the hands. I'm just going to take my glasses off for this because they always wiggle around. And then we're going to bring our elbows just up so that they're viewable in our peripherals. We're going to take a beautiful big breath in. And as we exhale, we're going to peel head, neck, and shoulders up off the floor, look between the legs, and then inhale to come back down. So I want you to support the weight of the head with the hands a little here. I want you to try and relax your neck as much as possible. When our necks are active, often our hip flexors are also active. So what we want to find is that we are as relaxed through both the neck and the hip flexors as possible. So this sit-up action really feels like it works through our abdominals. We're going to start adding a leg as we lift, if that's there for you, taking one leg up and bringing it back down. Switching legs as we go, one leg up and back down. Again, up and down, up. And now we're going to add a little rotation. So as the leg lifts, I'm taking my armpit to the outside of the lifted leg and recover. Switching through, thinking of taking my armpit or the side of my arm out. I often use this visualization because if I think of just taking my knee to my elbow, that's quite a short distance. Whereas if I think of crossing over, I get way more of a twist in. Breathing and rotating. We've got 4. 4. We've got 3. Last 2. And last 1. Come all the way back down and let the head relax. From here, I'm just going to stretch my arms up and stretch my legs out. And breathe. I'm going to gather my knees up. I'm going to take a little rock forwards and backwards. And from here, I'm going to find myself just on my side. So we're going to start with the legs stacked, and we're going to pop the elbow underneath the shoulder. So elbow is directly underneath the shoulder. Often when we set this up, I find that people are here, so you can see that my elbow is further away from me than my shoulder. When what we want really is that elbow directly under the shoulder. And before we lift here, I want you to imagine that you have a magnet on the inside of this elbow connected to your hip, and they're constantly drawing together. So rather than the effort go away and push away, I want you to feel like the elbow and the hip are coming together. So I'm going to start with this hand on my hip. Feel free to take an arm up or another arm of your choice, but we're going to take 8 lifts here. So we're going to lift up for 8. 8 and 7, 6. If you want to, you can extend the top leg. 5, last 4, last 3, last 2, last one. We're going to hold this one up with me. Holding this one up, we're going to lengthen the arm up, and if you can, we're going to lift this leg. If the knee is bent, feel free to lift the knee at a bent angle. We're going to try and bring the elbow and the knee together 8 times. We're 8 and 7 and 6. I'm allowing a flexion in my spine as the knee and the elbow come together. Last 4. Hopefully your butt is burning. Keep lifting the hips high. Create space under the armpit. Last 2. Last 1. And come all the way down. From here, we're going to swing ourselves around. I'm going to find the leggings. So I've just used my right leg to move. So my left leg was the leg on the floor. That leg is going to stay bent. I'm going to take my right leg out. I'm just coming to this position, and I want you to roll your hips forward if you can and find that nice stretch out through the inner thigh. Walk the hands forward and breathe. Now from here, we're going to take a little side bend. So we can go to the lengthened leg first, My hand is coming behind the leg, and we're just taking a little side bend up and over, but we're trying to keep this hip nice and anchored to the floor. It doesn't matter if it comes off a little bit, but I want you to find this beautiful side bending action for the spine. Really wonderful for that spine health. Last two. And last one. And then we're going to swap the legs over. So this time it's my right leg. It's coming in my left leg here. As long as you're doing the other leg, it doesn't really matter. And we're taking a side bend and another side bend. Breathe as you go at your own pace. Good. From here, we're going to see if we can extend out both legs. And we're going to open out the arms along the same line as the legs. I want you to imagine where your breastbone is, where that heart center is, and see if you can shine it to the sky a little more. And from here, we're just simply going to take a little rotation one way and a little rotation the other way. I don't mind if you're here or if the knees are slightly bent for you to be in the right position. Be where it serves you. And just taking the eye line back at the same time if we can, so that we're getting that twist through the top of the spine, through the neck, up to the occipital bones and the head. And then from here, the great news is we're going to do that lift on the other side. But this floor is pretty hard, and it was pretty tough on my elbow. So if the same thing happens for you, I'm going to suggest that you just fold your mat over, like I'm going to do here, and just give yourself a little bit more padding for that elbow. So we're starting with the knees stacked. Up to you whether you want to extend the top leg or both legs. Here we go, we're taking 8 lifts. Remember the magnet on the inside of the elbow to your hip, pulling together to lift rather than letting the elbow slide away as you lift. We've got 8. 8, 7, 6, and 5. I'm gonna pop my top leg out. 4, and 3. Last 2. Last one, holding this up. I'm going to send my arm up and over, lift the leg. It doesn't matter if the knee is bent, can come from here. Otherwise, leg extended. And just make sure that your elbow doesn't feel like it's grinding into the floor. We've got 8 here. 8, 7, 6. Still finding that flexion in the spine if it feels comfortable. For 4, lifting the hip, giving the armpit lots of air and lots of space. 2. Last one, lengthen, come down and relax. We're coming into a full point kneeling position now. So I'm going to keep my mat folded over so that my hands have a little bit more of a padding on this floor. So I just want you to find your knees under your hips and your hands underneath your shoulders. And we're going to take a little rock from side to side with those hips, just finding that press out, which should feel really lovely after all of that side work. The side glutes have to stabilize quite a lot once you lift that leg up and add that in. So we're coming all the way back in, and we're going to find a cat-cow. So if you're familiar with this, go straight for it. We're going to find that cow position first, letting the belly drop, letting the back arch, drawing the hands into the floor, gazing to the sky. And then we're going to scoop, tuck, curl, and bring it the other way. And try and let that neck relax as much as you can, either driving the heels of the hands into the floor or the fingertips. And then placing the heels of the hands down, finding again that lift. And scooping, tucking, rolling, finding that flex. And then we're just going to settle in the middle. And what I want you to do from here is tick your toes over. Now this next exercise, I don't want you to feel this in your back if you can. So make any adjustments that you need so that this feels like an abdominal exercise for you rather than pulling through the back. So that may mean that you take a little tuck underneath, that you round the back slightly, or it might mean that you slightly arch, or it might mean that you stay where you are, but you change your focus to the abs. So we're going to start by resisting the palms down into the floor, pulling out of the shoulders, neck is long, and lift the rib cage. And then we're simply going to float the knees off and tap them down. And the hardest thing about this, I think, is resisting the urge to look forwards or look at yourself. I understand if you want to take a peek at me and what I'm doing so that you know where we are, that's totally fine. But it's quite hard to keep that gaze down. So think of allowing the back of the neck to be long, crown in line with the spine and the tailbone. We're going to take 4 more here. 4, last 3, last 2. We're going to hold this one up, and we're going to take a little rock forwards, rocking forward, coming back. Feel as you rock forward the shift in where this is activating. We've got 4 more. 4. Keep breathing. Use the resistance of the hands into the floor to see if you can lift the rib cage another inch away from the floor so we're not sinking or drooping. Last 2. You can always put the knees down here. So if you need to pop the knees down to take the rock forward and back, totally fine. And that's our last one. We're going to find a child's pose. Toes together. I'm going to take my knees nice and wide. Let the hips sink back. Lengthen the palms away from me. And let the head relax. From here, I'm just going to take a fingertip walk to one side, finding a lovely bit of extra side bend in the spine. And then to the other side. And then coming all the way back into center. And unfolding my mat. So from here, we started with a little C-curve roll down. And we're going to finish with a C-curve challenge and hold. So feet are still flat, knees are pointing to the sky. We're lifting up beautiful and tall through the back. And we're going to start the way we started at the beginning before we add on our little sprinkles on top. So we're going to scoop, tuck, roll, and then we're going to scoop, tuck, lift. If the hands can come off, brilliant. Feel free to live there. If at this point you just still want the hands on for that little bit of extra help and resistance, keeping it in the right place, totally fine. Listen to what is going to feel best for your body and stay with me for the last 2 minutes. Good. The next time we come down, we're going to hold this. So scoop and tuck and roll and find that tailbone into the floor. Take the knees wide, take the feet wide, knock the knees together if you need to, or conversely, feet together, knees apart, wherever this needs to live. We're going to open our arms out, send them out, bring them back together. 3 more. Send them out, bring them back together. Keep that scoop. You want to scoop your pubic bone toward your nose, make yourself into a curly C shape with your body and your legs. From here, we're going to send the arms up. We're sending them up and center. We've got 3 more. Up and center. 2 more. Up and center. Last one. Up. And now we're going to add a little cinch at our waistline. Cinch the ribs and hips together. Release. I always think of this as my Sebastian the crab claw hand. So your ribs and your hips, they're coming together. Rather than trying to lift up, you're really cinching the ribs and hips together. Last 2. Last 1, we breathe, we smile, we hold. 8, 7, 6, challenge to lift the legs if it's there for you. 3, 2, and 1. Soles of the feet together, knees out to the side, and take a little hinge over your legs, finding that stretch. If this looks more like this for you, or this, totally fine. I'll just turn to the front so you can see where I am. Your heels don't have to be super close to your hips. If this is nicer for you with a larger diamond shape, feel free to take that there. And we're just going to lean forward and take a stretch. Try to relax your head a little if you can. And scoop, tuck, roll, back to center. Now, if it's comfortable for you to stay in this butterfly position, live here. Otherwise, elbows come in, palms to the sky. We're going to inhale to open and exhale to close. 2 more. Inhale to open. Exhale to close. Last one. Really imagine you have a lemon between the shoulder blades. Juice the lemon, drive the thumbs back, find that roll around at the front of the shoulders and relax. Beautiful work today. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Katie from Katie Swift Pilates and Bar, and I look forward to catching you next time.